Hello, everyone. Join us from the waiting room. We're just going to give it just a second or two to let everyone slide into the meeting. Hello, hello. For those of you who I have not met yet during the course of this symposium, I'm Professor Keely Heuer. I'm the one who's been sending you all the crazy emails. So apologies for all the backing and forthing, but we are so thrilled to have you as part of the 2025 SUNY New Paltz Undergraduate or History Symposium. This is our 7th iteration of this event, which began very humbly in 2019 with 12 speakers and now is an international event, truly, with 331 speakers who live on 6 continents around the globe. So all I need is a penguin from Antarctica, and I've pretty much ticked all the boxes. So this is just really a thrilling thing for us, and we are so grateful to all of you and all the efforts that you have put into your presentations. It has been truly just so impressive to listen in. And I'm sorry that I can't attend all your sessions. We have so many going on simultaneously. And unfortunately, I just can't beat the law of physics yet at this point, and I can't be in multiple places at multiple times. But I am really looking forward to going back and watching the video recordings of all the sessions that I have not been able to attend in person. Speaking of recordings, this session too is also being recorded. So if you ever want to go back and watch this at a later point, or if friends of yours are interested in attending graduate school, we hope that you will pull this up on our private YouTube channel. We hope to have all the videos up. We're conservatively saying early summer. We just have one person doing all the editing for us, and there's 42 sessions, and so it's a lot of video footage to go through. But will get those together as soon as possible, and I will email all the students to let you know that that's available. I'm also going to share with all of you who are attending, our students attending today, the contact information for our panelists. So if you would like to reach out to them directly, you will be able to do so without any problem. Just a few housekeeping notes. If you would like closed captioning, it is available to you. You can simply take your mouse and hover it over the lower part of the screen. The buttons will pop up and you should see closed captioning. You can turn it on and off as you wish. I will confess they are AI generated, and as we know with AI, it's not always 100% accurate. So you might get some really interesting translations, particularly with maybe specialized terms and things like that. But we do the best that we can. I think those are all the major housekeeping items. So I'm just going to give you a brief outline of what we're going to be doing today. First, I'm going to very briefly introduce our very illustrious panel to you, representing many different graduate programs across the globe. And then I'm going to give them each a turn to talk to you a little bit about what their program in particular offers. And then we're just going to move to our next session once they each have an opportunity to do that. And we're going to talk, I'm going to ask them some very kind of broad and general questions about preparing to go to graduate school, what sort of things are graduate programs looking for and their ideal candidates, about the realities of when you're in graduate school, how do you finance these things, and and just kind of general advice of how is the graduate experience different from the undergraduate experience. We really, as part of the symposium, besides giving you a platform for sharing your research, we really want this to be an opportunity for you to gain some professional development. And so this is why we've started including these types of sessions for you to learn about the opportunities that are available to you after you finish your undergraduate degree. I also would encourage you to check out the website. We have information about graduate programs there as well, with programs that have shared information with us. We also have a tab on the main homepage. It says Publish. That's a list of undergraduate journals. So now that you've all written papers, you just need to stick some footnotes in there really quickly, and you can submit those for consideration to these publications. And we encourage you to continue with your work that way as well. So, and then our third section, and maybe the most important section at the very end, is we are going to give you an opportunity to ask questions of your own. And you can do that multiple ways, just like we've done in the other symposium sessions. You are welcome to ask questions in the chat box, or if it's easier for you, you can use the raise hand function, which you'll find under the reaction buttons, the same place where you can do the little emojis and the confetti trumpets and things like that. So we will call on you and you'll be able to unmute yourself and ask your question directly. So, phew, that was a lot. So let's get started and let me introduce you to all the wonderful panelists that we have gathered here today for you. So we have Dr. Andrew Graciano, who's professor of art history and medical humanities and culture at the University of South Carolina. We have Dr. Sara Ishii-Bear, who's an assistant professor of art history and visual culture at Texas Women's University. We have Dr. Leor Jacobi, who is associate lecturer in the Department of Jewish Art at Bar Ilan University in Jerusalem. We have Dr. Kyle Leyden, who's a lecturer in early modern architecture and visual culture and head of admissions and widening participation at the Courtauld Institute of Art. We have Dr. Sara Lichtman, who is the chair of the History of Art and Design at the Pratt Institute. We have Dr. Alexandra Beck, Aldain Chair in Historical Indigenous Art and Assistant Professor at the University of British Columbia. We have Dr. Heather Shirey, Professor and Chair of the Department of Art History at the University of St. Thomas. We have Dr. Allison Stielau, who's a lecturer in early modern art at the University College London. We have Pamudu Tennakoon, who's a PhD candidate at Brown University. We have Dr. Ming Tiampo, who is full professor of art history, co-director of the Center for Transnational Cultural Analysis and graduate supervisor at Carleton University. And we have Dr. Anne van Dijk, who's associate professor of art history and graduate programs coordinator in the School of Art and Design at Northern Illinois University. So as you can see, we have lots of really wonderful brainy people here for you to ask questions of. So I think we're going to go in the order that I announced to you. So we'll begin with Dr. Graciano, if you wouldn't mind telling us a bit about the University of South Carolina.
Sure. Hi, everybody. The University of South Carolina is located in Columbia, South Carolina. It is directly in the middle of the state, the capital city. We have a graduate program in art history. It's a terminal master's degree, and we are part of the School of Visual Art and Design, which includes art history, studio art, art education, and media and film studies. Our terminal master's degree is 30 hours, which can be completed in 2 years full-time. We do have students who come and do the degree part-time, which can be a cost savings. And we've had pretty good luck sending students off to doctoral programs afterward and also into employment in the museum field. And our master's degree has 2 separate tracks, a conventional thesis track and a project track. And so the project is differentiated by still being a research project, but without necessarily a sustained argument. So something like a museum catalog, for example, a catalog of collections, the product then is a useful written work, like a reference work. And so that's very useful for our students interested in museum and archival related positions. Let's see. I think that's kind of all I have for now. I'll stop talking.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That was terrific. And I think we'll transition now to Dr. Ishii-Bear, please.
Thank you so much for having me. Let me just share my screen and open up the slides. And I apologize, I'm going to reference my notes so I don't go over time. But like Dr. Heuer mentioned, I'm Sara Ishii-Bear. I'm assistant professor of art history and visual culture at Texas Women's University. And so we're in Denton, Texas, which is about like 30 minutes north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So it's a small but vibrant arts community and really connected to the larger kind of art centers in Dallas and Fort Worth. This is our degree program. And so just a couple of things that I wanted to pull out. Students will take 12 scheduled credit hours, so 4 classes in art history courses. And so those are aimed to give you a broad understanding of the way in which art functions in society in both a local and global context. And I feel like our program is also special because of this interdisciplinary focus. We have a secondary area. So students have 2 options. They can take courses in multicultural women and gender studies, or they can take studio art courses. And then in terms of the thesis, we also kind of have some flexibility. Students can write a traditional research paper, or we've had students take on creative projects as well. So for example, one of our MA students, Caitlin Spencer, curated an exhibition as part of her thesis project. So she brought together 9 Black and Latina artists from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, hosted this exhibition that you see on the left-hand side, and that's in our TW galleries. And then she also wrote a paper to accompany the project, as well as hosted a reception and artist talk that you see on the right side. And Caitlin was then able to, graduate, and she got a position shortly thereafter as the curator for the Greater Denton Arts Council. A little bit about funding, because I know that's always a question. We have a goal of giving students 10-hour assistantships each semester for students who want them. So students can do in the first 18 hours graduate assistant work, and then after 18 hours of coursework, they can then become a graduate teaching assistant and have that teaching experience while still in graduate school. We have competitive scholarships for both current and incoming students. And we really have a goal to get our students scholarships, because we know that out of state students can apply for in-state rates if they have $1,000 or more of competitive scholarship money. So those are just some of the things that I wanted to pull out about our program, but I'm super excited to answer questions during the Q&A. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Ishii-Bear. And now we're going to transition to Dr. Jacobi.
Hello, greetings everyone. Greetings from Israel, Jerusalem. I'll share the screen here. Today I'm representing Bar Ilan University. We have a unique department in the art history world. We have the only department of Jewish art. You can study Jewish art in any university, in any art history department around the world, but our department is the only one that is focused on Jewish art. We do also offer courses in general art. In fact, they're mandatory, especially for undergraduates. But really, we have the most concentrated collection of faculty and offerings from ancient arts, ancient Jewish arts, archaeological discoveries, analyzed from perspectives of visual culture, medieval arts, modern arts, feminist arts, Holocaust art, and other trauma issues. We have a wide variety of offerings. Our department has offered an undergraduate degree and also has offered doctorates for quite a few years now already. And just 2 years ago, we opened a master's degree program. So we're very much looking to boost our enrollment. So I would say, in terms of, if you're interested, then it's very likely you would get admitted into the master's degree program. But of course, excelling and receiving a high mark would be more of a challenge. We offer, for the master's degree program, we offer 2 tracks, one with a thesis and one without a thesis, just taking courses. Both are available. We do offer many courses in English. It's possible to start out without knowledge of Hebrew in our department. But most of the courses are in the Hebrew language, and there are ulpans available for learning, for picking up the language quickly, and it would be expected of prospective students. We publish a journal yearly called Ars Judaica. It's devoted to Jewish art, and our 20th issue will be published shortly. It's peer-reviewed, indexed, widely acclaimed academic journal. And so I will I'll close here, and I look forward to fielding any requests and discussing Bar-Ilan University with anyone. Thanks so much.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. And now we're going to turn to Dr. Kyle Leyden, please.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you again for having me here at the symposium to talk a bit about the Courtauld. So again, I'm just going to quickly share my screen if I can, and open up my slides. There we go. So the Courtauld, one of the more unusual institutions here in that we are a single discipline university and we only teach history of art. So today I'm going to give you a very quick introduction to what we grandly call the Courtauld experience. So the Courtauld, as I say, founded in 1932 by a visionary industrialist, Samuel Courtauld, who got together with a leading art historian, Sir Robert Witt, and a great art collector, Viscount Fareham, and basically decided to bring those people together to found what he described as a missionary centre for the history of art in London, in the centre of London, originally founded in his house on Portman Square. We've now moved to Somerset House on the Strand. As I said, founded very much as a single subject university, serviced by its own private gallery, which occupies the left-hand side of the building you can see on the left there, which is the Courtauld Gallery. We're currently operating, as you can see, out of 2 campuses, both in central London, one on the Strand, just at the edge of Covent Garden, the other at King's Cross. That's because our original home at Somerset House is currently undergoing a huge renovation project. The gallery has been completed, as has the conservation department. All of the history of art departments, however, are currently based at Vernon Square, and we should be moving back, hopefully, within the next 3 years. Now, as I said, the Courtauld is a rather unusual institution. We have a strange dichotomy between being one of the smallest universities in the world. We only have about 650 students, but we're also the largest art history department in the world, with over now 40 permanent faculty, with a range of specializations in absolutely every area and geography and temporality you can think about in history of art, right from the ancient world right through to the contemporary, which makes us quite unique and very much a research-based institution here in London, with access both to our own galleries and obviously to all that London has to offer in terms of cultural institutions as well. We also recently entered into a strategic partnership with King's College London. So in addition to what we teach at the Courtauld itself, one of the world's leading centres of history of art, we now also have the ability to offer students the access to all that King's has to offer. And obviously King's is one of the largest universities in the University of London. We are the smallest. So we now have access to all of the facilities at King's, in addition to what we have at the Courtauld, which is the largest art history library in the UK, and as I say, the largest single faculty dealing with history of art as well. So in terms of the postgraduate programs that we offer at the Courtauld, you'll be entering the Courtauld at a very exciting time. We have just vastly expanded our postgraduate offering at the Courtauld, and we now offer several MAs. We used to only offer the MA in History of Art, in addition to our PhD program as well. So as you can see, we have our MA History of Art, which is taught very much in the sort of Oxbridge system of tutorials, backed up with other kind of activities, which I'll get into in a second. We then have an MA specializing in curating, looking at sort of the history of curating and also the current practice of curating. We have an MA History and Conservation of Buddhist Heritage, an MA, the new MA Art and Business, which is being taught jointly with King's, which is basically looking both at the history of the art market in addition to the contemporary art market and fitting into that as well. We also then have our MA Contemporary Art and the Moving Image, which again is being taught jointly with King's College. So we have a very wide offering at postgraduate level, and actually postgraduate community at the Courtauld makes up by far the largest community at the Courtauld. Our undergraduates, so there are about 300 of them, but there are about 500 postgraduates at the Courtauld, so very much being led by research here at the Courtauld. So the MA History of Art, as I say, is our biggest program, and probably the one that most of you might be interested in. It's a 9-month program where you're basically taught by a global leader on a particular subject. So really, this is where you're developing your voice as an independent art historian. So that member of faculty on that subject that you're particularly interested in will teach what's called a special option. That, as I say, is taught in the Oxbridge method of tutorials of groups of about 10 to 12. There'll be an absolute maximum of 12 in your year cohort. There are about 25 special options across media periods and geographies. And as I say, it's by far the largest intake of students we get at the Courtauld, comprising about 250 students per year. The course itself, as you can see, is made up here of the special options taught through seminars. There are other modules that you'll undertake as well. So you'll have critical debates, which is a group module taught alongside all of the MA programs, where basically groupings are put together where you discuss critical debates going on in the philosophies underpinning the history of art. We also have a virtual exhibition module, which is a group module taught in spring, focusing on questions of display, curation, and exhibition. Obviously, an awful lot of our graduates leave and go on to careers in the cultural and curating sector. So that's to kind of give them the skills they need to go forward into that sector. And then the majority of your mark on that particular 9-month course will come from your research dissertation, a 10,000-word research piece of research, which you'll present at the end of the year. And just to give you a flavor of the kinds of special options that are available, this is what we offered this year. This is page 1 of 3, so you can have a quick look back at these. But as you'll see, they really do cover the widest possible scope in terms of time periods and media of art as well, going right from the ancient world, from the Byzantine Empire, right through, as you can see here, to contemporary art as well. These are our entry requirements, which are basically a good 2-1 in a bachelor's degree or the international equivalent. And we kick off with our new cycle of recruitment in October of this year. Scholarships, as we've heard, are certainly very important. And one of the big issues which one cannot escape in London is the expense of actually studying in a city like London, where it is terribly expensive. Of course, there are reasons why London is so expensive. It's an amazing city in which to live. We do offer a series of scholarships, and we are expanding those constantly in order to try to make sure that the Courtauld is open to the widest possible selection of students that we possibly can. So we have a number, as you can see here, of scholarships offering £15,500 per year. We have also recently set up the Manton Centre for the Study of British Art at the Courtauld, which is funded by the Manton Foundation. The first scholarships that they are funding are emerging this year. These will grow over time as that investment in the Courtauld matures. So at the moment, we're able to offer 2 MA and 1 PhD scholarship of fees, be they home or international, and £16,000 towards living costs per year as well. There are also a series of unrestricted fundings, and there's also some funding and loan schemes at the Courtauld as well. And you can find all the information for that in those links that you can see down there at the bottom. And finally, then, if you have any questions to ask about the Courtauld, please do stay in touch with us. As you can see, here is our website. And obviously, I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you might have about the course or about coming to London and the challenges, particularly of coming to London, that might arise today. But other than that, thank you very much indeed for hearing something about the Courtauld.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now we're going to shift gears to Dr. Lichtman, who is here with the Pratt Institute.
Thank you. Share my screen. I think it's this one. Yes, how's that look to everybody?
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Well, first, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting us. It's so nice to be here with all of these colleagues. And I'm going to speak very briefly about Pratt Institute. I'm Sara Lichtman. I'm the chair of the History of Art and Design department at Pratt. And Pratt has a lot of unique qualities, one of which is, of course, we're located in an art and design school. So Pratt has an undergraduate and many, many graduate programs, about 5,000 students in total. And we're located in Brooklyn, New York. I'll talk about that in just a second. And for the graduate program in the History of Art and Design, we have two programs. We have a MA in History of Art and Design, and then we have a dual degree that we share with the School of Information and Library Science. So students can take either one of these tracks. The MA in the History of Art and Design is 36 credits, and the dual degree is 60 credits. So the MA should take about 2 years, and the dual degree takes about 3 years. And by combining with the dual, you save about 6 credits. So it's a little bit of an incentive to do both. We are part of the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences. This is our building down here on the left-hand side, and this includes 5 other schools, such as Media Studies, Social Science and Cultural Studies, Writing, Math and Science. There's we have one more school, us in History of Art and Design. So one of the features of being a student at Pratt is you can take classes, of course, the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences that count and can count towards electives in history of art. So we have courses in conservation, materiality of pigments. You can take courses in media studies and visual culture, all of these different classes that we rotate throughout the year. And our faculty teach across these departments with students and workshops, and we spend lots of times trying to get all of these students together. This is our Brooklyn campus. It's 25 acres right in the heart of Brooklyn in New York City. It's situated in a large sculpture park. So when you're on campus, it's really this amazing experience. It's right in the Clinton Hill neighborhood, right off the G train subway. So you really feel as if you're in a, sort of a proper college, a proper place to study. And it's just an oasis to come in, to just get to campus and get sort of away from the frenetic pace of New York City. But once you exit our gates, you're back out into the city culture right away. So this is our main campus on Brooklyn, where there's graduate housing. Many of our students can live on campus or off campus. And we also have a Manhattan campus at Pratt, right on 14th Street, in the Union Square neighborhood, where the School of Information is housed. So if you were to do the dual degree, this is where the Pratt Gallery is, a very good gallery where students often work, shows are exhibited there, and your classrooms would be. This is an example of one of your classrooms at the School of Information. Just very quickly, what is our dual degree? It's for students who are really interested in working in archives, working in libraries, working in special collections. Many of our graduates go on to work at the Watson Library, corporate collections, working with papers, other types of archives and libraries, and it's an accredited program. So you really get a credential in library science alongside this credential in art and design history. If you do the straight MA degree in art and design history, this is where you would be at Pratt. This is one of our oldest buildings. Pratt was founded in 1887, so it's really quite an old campus. This is a landmarked building on campus. And, to take you through, we can speak more specifically in question and answer. You go through over 2 years taking some required courses in museology, historiography. There are certain tracks that you have to fulfill in ancient and Renaissance and contemporary. You can take certificates in design history and museum studies, as well as an additional course with no fee added. So if you want an expertise in museum studies and curatorial practice or design history, we have pathways and certificates to do that. And just to give you a sense of some of the things our students are listening to and participating in, we bring in lots of lectures. One of the benefits of being in New York City is we have all of the major cultural institutions at our doorsteps. And in addition to that, many people pass through our city, right, giving lectures in other places or coming in for College Art Association or what it might be. So we're very fortunate to bring lots of people to campus. For example, curators from Cooper Hewitt. We've had some talks on art restitution, queer art with a professor from Wellesley College, a lecture that's coming up now with a professor from Berkeley on climate and objecthood. And some of the lectures this semester, just to highlight one or two, let's look at this one. We just had a curator from the Met come to talk about the new installations of the Dutch decorative arts and design galleries. And, you may say, well, maybe 18th century Dutch decorative arts are not really my cup of tea, but the whole idea is that you meet this curator, this person working in the field, right, and really get exposure to different types of practice. So by the end of her lecture, we had a line of students out the door to talk to her, and it was fascinating to think about how these new galleries will be installed over the next few years at the Met. We also offer internships at various museums around the city. We have 2 standing internships, one at the Brooklyn Museum, you see here, one at Cooper Hewitt, and many of our students go on to intern or do independent studies and also get jobs at places like Guggenheim, the Whitney, the Met, and other places, both within New York City and beyond. We also offer a robust travel abroad program at Pratt. We have our long-standing Pratt in Venice program. It's been around for 40 years, where students can spend 6 weeks living and studying in Venice. And we run this program with the Fine Arts Department at Pratt. So one of the really exciting things, I think, about going to Pratt is you are within an art and design institute. So you are not only with art historians, social scientists, or media studies scholars within our school, but you are with fine artists, designers, people working in digital landscapes, people getting MFAs in writing. So it's a really interesting group of students who are both sort of makers in the practical sense of they actually make and design things, and scholars and academics as well. If you don't want to spend 6 weeks in Venice, we offer 2-week intensive courses in London, in Paris. These are tracks as well where you could get certificates in design history or museum studies. And just some photos. This is just from last summer of some of our students. It's really, these are fun things. They're in the summer. So if you're a working student, we hope that you can use 2 weeks of your vacation time to come and get 3 credits. And we also have a vibrant student life. In addition to all that New York City has to offer, we have a thriving art history club. Here are just some examples of some recent things we've done. This is a student with Billy Frank who came as a speaker just last week, some students at a trip to MoMA. So lots of things going on in our department, and very happy to speak in more detail at the end. And please feel free to reach out. This is the Instagram of our Art History Club if you want to see what we're doing. This is us at Pratt, and here is my contact information. So thank you.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, Dr. Lichtman. And now we're going to change over to Dr. Peck, who is going to introduce us to the University of British Columbia.
Thank you, thank you. So let's. All right, yes, my name is Dr. Alexandra Peck. I am here at University of British Columbia, or UBC, as it is affectionately called, on the west coast of Canada. So geographically quite far from probably where many of you are. This is a photo of our lovely campus, but what you should probably know first is that UBC is a very large place, both geographically as well as demographically. We have a large student body, which of course has pros and cons, but it also means that our department here at UBC is very large. We have dozens of faculty, and we're kind of an integrated department with art history, visual art, as well as art historical theory and art criticism are 3 of our main programs that we offer. We also have many facilities on campus. Our department is a bit spread out throughout campus, but really that is because of all of these different tracks that you can take within the department. So some of our spaces are for teaching, studying. We actually have a separate art library at UBC. And then we also have spaces for our visual arts students, including studios and places where they're making art in addition to studying art. So because of these 3 different tracks that you can take, we have different degrees, both undergraduate and graduate degrees that we offer in art history. We have the standard bachelor's and master's and PhD. But we also offer a critical and curatorial studies master's degree, which, for those of you who are interested, has to do with art criticism, art writing, as well as curation, so curating exhibits or exhibitions for galleries and museums. And many of our students who enter with who enter into the master's degree in art history go on, on the academic track to get PhDs either from UBC or other institutions. I have a master's student who is headed to Cornell in the fall for her PhD. But those who enter for critical and curatorial studies, often that's their terminal degree, is that master's, and they are the ones who are going off to work in galleries and museum spaces. And then lastly, I know we're at an art history symposium, but I would also like you to know that we offer a BFA and MFA in fine arts or visual arts here at UBC. And that also means that you'll be surrounded by scholars as well as practitioners of art. And there's a lot of crossover in our department for that, meaning that you can take courses from any one of these 3 tracks, regardless of which degree you're entering with. And it also means that we have a lot of spaces on campus. We have quite a few art galleries, some of which are student-run, such as the Hatch Gallery. So many grad students as well as undergrads are involved with curating that space, and often they draw upon their peers' work who are the visual art or fine art students. We have the Belkin Art Gallery and the Aldean Art Center, which are both kind of our contemporary or modern art spaces. And then we also have the Museum of Anthropology here at UBC, which houses a very large collection of material culture from around the world, but with specific focus on Northwest Coast Native or Indigenous art, which is what I study, as well as quite significant holdings of Asian, Chinese, Japanese collections, which really is reflective of where we are in Vancouver and our student body populations as well. So within the department, again, we have dozens of faculty. We have very diverse research interests, so there's a little bit of something for everyone, depending upon what you're interested in. Like I said, my focus is historical or pre-colonial Indigenous art of North America. I have a couple other colleagues who also specialize in that, and we're really trying to grow the department in that field. But we have Byzantine archaeologists, we have a lot of medievalists. We also have those looking at Japanese tombs and funerary traditions. We have one of my colleagues studies Black feminist photography. We have a post-war modernism, quite a few faculty looking at that. So really, if there's something you're interested in, chances are we probably teach and we can offer you study in that field. One last thing I will say is we also have a very large collection, in addition to our galleries and museums, of public art and public art installations on our campus. And based on where we are in Vancouver, most of that art is coming out of local Indigenous contemporary artists who are Coast Salish or farther north representing Alaska, Haida, Tlingit, Kwakwaka'wakw communities. So if you're around campus, you will see a lot of what looks like this in the form of totem poles and kind of these monumental sculptures, which really is just it's beautiful, it's aesthetically pleasing, but it also kind of offers you, if you're interested in sculpture or public art or these larger installations, there are also ways for you to integrate that into your study as well. And then the last thing I'll say, and I don't have a slide for this, but here at UBC, because we are in Vancouver, it's a little bit different maybe than some of the US or American institutions that you might be more familiar with in terms of things like tuition and the layout of the graduate program. So here, if you're entering for a PhD, you will have already received your master's from somewhere else. So at a lot of institutions in Canada, those are 2 separate degrees, which I think lends itself really well for those of you who might be looking at a 2-year master's program without knowing, if you really want to dedicate 6, 7, 8 years of your life to getting a PhD. So it's a good way maybe of gauging, is this for me? And you can get a master's along the way before committing to a doctoral degree. And then secondly and lastly, tuition, which is probably at the forefront of most of your minds. Our tuition runs at about $10,000 per year, which is significantly less than most institutions in other parts of the world. And I'm from the US. I went to school on the East Coast, so I can tell you that this is true. But we have a much lower tuition. Obviously, Canada has some other perks in terms of things like healthcare and what's covered. So this may make it a bit more attractive to you. But we also do have scholarships on top of kind of these lower costs for graduate students. Not so much master's students, but definitely for PhDs, you're covered, I think, up to $25,000 per year. So I will hand it off to our next presenter.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peck. That was wonderful. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Shirey, who's going to tell us about the University of St. Thomas.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be able to talk about my program, but also to learn about all of these other programs and all the possibilities out there for students who are interested in art history. I'm from the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota, and we're an urban campus. And that's great because it means that our students get to take advantage of some of the institutions here, like the Minneapolis Institute of Arts and the Walker Art Center, as well as smaller institutions like galleries, All My Relations Gallery, for example, or corporate collections like Target Collection or the General Mills Collection. So these are some of the places where our students do internships and where they ultimately gain employment as well. We have two different program options. We have a master's degree in art history, which is a terminal master's program, and it's a 36 credit program. And we also have a smaller program, which is a graduate certificate in museum studies, and this is just 15 credit hours. But also students can do a joint MA and certificate program where they combine the two together, and essentially it's 39 credits altogether to do the joint MA and museum studies certificate in one. And that's actually the pathway that most students take, or sometimes they come in thinking that they want to do the certificate in museum studies and they realize, oh, they would like to go on and do the master's degree too. So there's a lot of flexibility for that. We're a fairly small program. We have 7 full-time faculty in our program, and typically seminars have about 8 to 14 students in them. Our seminars meet once a week, and they're always in the evening. So our students are a really interesting group. Some students come straight out of undergraduate and they're full-time in the program. Some students work during the day. Some students work full-time during the day. Some of the students come to the program after having other careers and discovering that art history is really the path they want to take. So it's a really interesting and wide range of perspectives that we have in the program. Since we don't have a PhD program, all the research and exhibition assistantships are held by MA students, as well as hourly positions such as gallery guards, gallery assistants, and leadership opportunities are all available for the master's degree students. One thing to think about for those of you who are considering PhD or master's programs is to really think carefully about the interest of the faculty members at each institution, as well as the kinds of courses that they offer. And that's what I've really enjoyed about these presentations, just hearing the wide range of topics that are taught at so many places. So I thought it's worth mentioning in our program, we have a wide range of topics that are taught, and these are topics that students can research in the program as well. Museum studies, architectural history, modern European art, Africa and the diaspora, Chinese art, arts of the Pacific, Mesoamerican, colonial Latin America. I teach the history of street art. That's my area of research. We have a faculty member who does history of type design and ancient art and Renaissance art and history of photography. So these are some of the courses that we offer. And for those of you who are investigating programs, I think it's a really good idea to look through the faculty list and look at the research interest of the faculty and look at the courses that are offered, you know, over the course of 4 or 5 years, just to get a sense of what the program is all about. I thought it might be interesting just to mention how one goes about applying for a program such as ours. And I know this varies widely, but whoops, can you still see the screen? Or did it's still okay? Okay, I minimized it for myself and I don't know if I messed it up. To apply for our program, we have a rolling deadline. So students can apply at any time during the year. Students have to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution, and they apply online. Students applying these days have 3 confidential letters of recommendation. One must be from a professor, and a personal statement of no more than 500 words. We don't require any test scores, but we do look for a writing sample that shows the student's ability to do research in the field of art history. And I should also mention that applying to our graduate program, there's no charge to apply. It's now free. So there have been some nice changes in how students apply for graduate students in more recent years that I think make it much more accessible. So thank you so much. I'll hand it over to the next speaker.
Marvelous. Thank you. We really appreciate that. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Stielau, who's going to tell us a bit about University College London.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to try to share my screen. Okay. I'm Ali Stielau. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Ali Stielau. I'm a lecturer in the history of early modern art at University College London. I'm going to start my timer to make sure I don't go over time. UCL is a major research institution, university in the heart of London. We have a department in history of art, about 23 full-time members of staff across 2 campuses. We cover a wide range, geographically, historically, theoretically, you know, as someone else, I mean, other people were saying this, but I think we're all so proud of our colleagues and who you're going to get to be taught by in any one of these programs. And so what I'm showing on the screen now is who we are, and what the previous speaker just said about how important it is to sort of familiarize yourself with the people that are going to teach a program and what they teach. So I'm just showing you on the screen, you know, who we are, and you can click in. This is our website to click in to sort of read more about what we kind of cover. It's a sort of very wide range of things. And being located in London, we're steps from major institutions connected to art, architecture, archaeology, etc. We're blocks from the British Library, the British Museum, a bit farther to the National Gallery, to the Tate, and we make use of all these collections in our teaching and in students' own research projects. We have a significant art collection that's connected to the Slade School of Art, which is the art school at UCL. It has a very high percentage of women artists because for the length of time that there have been women art students at the Slade. And we have a major library, special collections that we use in research and teaching as well. I'm going to switch from this screen to another screen, which is if you go onto study on our website, and you go onto undergraduate, there's 2 things I want to show you. One is that if you go to the bottom of that page, we have mini taster lectures from 3 members of staff. So if you want to get a sense of what it's like to be taught by some of the people that are in our department and teaching on the MA and in the undergraduate programs, you can just see their short little lectures. But also, if you are not yet a final year undergrad and you want to sort of see what we're like, you can come and study with us for a term or 2 terms. And if you're interested in that, you can click on this tab that's called affiliate. So that's basically coming to study abroad at UCL. So if that's something that you want to do before you even finish your degree, wherever you are, you can investigate if you might be able to do that. But to talk really quickly about our MA programs, going back to this study tab, going to postgraduate, we basically have 2 programs, the MA in History of Art and the MSc in the Conservation of Contemporary Art and Media. So one is an MA program where people study art history sort of very broadly, and they're going on into careers like curating and into the media and every other direction that you could go into having studied history of art. I will go onto this page, which is covering sort of what you take 2 special subject modules, so going really deep with a member of staff into an area of specialty. You also take a methods course. This is a 12-month program. You can study part-time or full-time. And that is my time, but I'm just going to quickly go over to say, if you go, if you're looking on this page, you can see what the special subjects are for this year. We usually advertise them when you would be applying, so you can see the kind of classes that you could be taking. And if you could just click into them, there's much more information. All of these classes have a trip associated with them. So people go to the Venice Biennale. I've taken students to Vienna. That's a part of the program as well. And I'll just quickly say, because I think it's an important sort of feature of the department, is this new MSc that we have. So if you think you might be interested in becoming a conservator and a conservator of contemporary art, which has its own requirements and issues, if you think about the question of conserving performance art and time-based media, et cetera, we have a whole program that's devoted to that, that's very practically based. I don't teach on that program, so I really encourage you, if it's something that you're interested in, to read more about that. And so I'm going to stop now. Thanks so much.
Thank you. This has been excellent. I have to say, listening to all of you, all I want to do is go back to graduate school now because there's so many fabulous programs I want to take part in. So now we're going to have the pleasure of hearing from Dr. Tiampo, who is from Carleton University. So I'm going to replace the spotlight. Whoops. Of course, there you are on my list. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you so much, Keely. So I'm going to start my stopwatch as well, so I don't go over time. Hello from the unceded territories of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples, otherwise known as Ottawa, the capital of Canada. I'm representing Carleton University, which is one of two universities in two major universities in the city. There's the Francophone and an Anglophone university, and we are the Anglophone University. We have both an MA and a PhD program. I will be speaking about the MA in Art and Architectural History. And we are a two-year MA where we provide funding for the majority of our students. As with UBC, our tuition is quite affordable for American students and for international students in general, but we do have one funded position for an international student a year. So we are a small and very supportive MA program located in a city that, although it's quite a modest size, we have many, many major national institutions, which means that we have lots of access to internship positions, giving our students a leg up in terms of what they can do after the MA. So we have three streams, a coursework stream, a major research project theme, and a thesis stream. For the coursework stream, it's quite, it's a 5-credit MA, and for the major research project, you can either write a paper or you can actually do something a little bit more creative. You could do a podcast or an exhibition, or the sky's the limit for that one. We also have some students doing digital humanities projects. We also have a thesis stream where you would be able to go in greater depth with a faculty member to write a 90-page thesis. Now, in addition to our MA program, there are 3 different diploma options that many of our students will take to add on to their programs. And what that means is that we have students that are doing an MA in Art and Architectural History, but they also have these add-ons in either curatorial studies, migration and diaspora studies, or the digital humanities. And while these add a couple of courses onto your program, it is definitely worth it because it expands your career options and also what you're able to learn from Carleton University. Many of our students also do practica. I mentioned that earlier in terms of our relationships with local institutions. Here we have a photograph of a class of ours, of mine actually, at the National Gallery of Canada, where many of our students will do their practicum experiences. And in fact, it's a little embarrassing, but I guess this is a humble brag in the sense that something like 40% of the curatorial team at the National Gallery of Canada did their MAs or undergraduate degrees at Carleton. We have a great network, not just at the National Gallery, but also at the Ottawa Art Gallery and in other arts institutions across the country. So final thing, the Ottawa advantage. It's a small and cozy city with amazing arts institutions, great networks, and the ability to really get deep into the arts scene there. We are radically open to the world, and in order to encourage that further, we also have various programs where we send our students abroad, either for a course or to give lectures elsewhere, or we have summer courses in both Istanbul and Rome. So if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You have my email down there.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. And now we have the pleasure of hearing from Pamudu Tennakoon, who is going to talk to us about Brown University.
Hi, everyone. Just give me a second to share the screen. Hi, so I'm here to talk about opportunities in art history at Brown University. And Brown University is located in Providence, Rhode Island, about an hour away from Boston. So the Department of History of Art and Architecture, or HIAA, offers a doctoral degree program. It does not actually offer an terminal master's. So currently it's a small department. We have about 10 full-time faculty and around 20 to 25 graduate students. It's sometimes hard to keep track because people are, especially at this time of the year, because people are graduating and are submitting at different rates. So the faculty in the department work on a range of fields. One sec. Range of fields from medieval Chinese art and material culture, modern architecture, art of British Empire and South Asia, as well as Islamic and ancient art, and the history of photography. And this is not an exhaustive list. And similarly, so the graduate student body also works on a range of topics across the world, from art to architecture. Though it's a small program, I think one of the really unique aspects, and I'm still a graduate student here, I'm finishing up right now, that I really enjoyed about this department is that it really equally based history of art and history of architecture, because the faculty is often split down the middle, with many people working on both objects of art and architectural objects at the same time. So the graduate student body in HIAA at Brown also contains students who are interested in both academic and curatorial parts. Brown University, with its proximity to the Rhode Island School of Design, as well as the Risty Museum, as well as many other museums, galleries, and art initiatives across campus, allows students to engage with both museum and scholarly production, have a chance to curate small exhibitions, as well as publish and engage in a lot of academic conferences, as well as workshops and things that happen across campus. So each year, the department takes around 4 doctoral students. They make about 4 offers, and the offers are all made with a 6-year funding package that is guaranteed. It includes both a tuition waiver as well as a stipend. And the stipend is often split between a few years of fellowship, as well as teaching assistantships or research assistantships and proctorships, including a proctorship sometimes if you have the opportunity to work as a curatorial assistant at the Risty Museum. And I do want to emphasize that a master's is not required to get into this program. This program takes people straight out of undergraduate, straight out of their BA or any other bachelor's program, but it's dependent on the quality of the candidate, as well as the intellectual curiosity, training, and the questions that they're asking, and if that works with the faculty that they want to work with, and if they align with the faculty that they want to work with. So the application to the doctoral program consists of 5 main components. It is often a form of biographical data, a statement of purpose, a CV, writing samples, and recommendation letters. So I also want to plug something that our department does do. We have a statement of purpose writing workshop every fall, and it's open to anyone. If you're interested in taking part, you please email our administrative assistant, Karina Hayden. She can put you on a listserv. Essentially, it brings together faculty as well as graduate students from our department to speak about their process of writing statements of purpose, which can often be a very opaque document when you're applying to grad school. So we bring together examples from statements of purposes and why they worked and why they might not have worked, or what people would do differently if they were applying again. And as it was mentioned earlier, I am still a graduate student and I'm finishing up right now. So during the Q&A, if you have any questions for me regarding that, I'm happy to speak about that as well. Thank you.
Marvelous. Thank you so much. Dr. Tiampo, we totally understand if you need to pop out, but thank you so much for being here. And then from our final panelist, but certainly not least, we're going to hear from Dr. Van Dijk from the Northern Illinois University. So I'm going to switch the spotlight over. Hello. Thank you.
All right. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So I'm Anne Van Dijk, and I concur with Dr. Heuer that listening to all these presentations makes me want to go back to graduate school. So, Northern Illinois University. My name is Anne Van Dijk. I'm the Graduate Programs Coordinator, and I'm also an Associate Professor of Art History and Visual Studies. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about our program. Doesn't want to move. Sorry. No. Forward. Here we go. All right. I work in a School of Art and Design, and we have various different graduate degrees. The art history degrees are part of the MA in Art degree. If you applied for this degree, you would have to apply for a specialization, and we have two specializations, a specialization in art history and visual studies research, and a specialization in art history and visual studies teaching at the two-year college level. So students who apply to the research specialization, they're students obviously who are interested in art history research. They're often students, while this is a terminal degree, if you feel like you're not really quite ready for a PhD program and you'd like to spend a couple of years strengthening your knowledge and research and writing skills, this would be a good place where you could do that. Other students of ours really think that their vocation is to teach in a community college, and so we have a specialization for students who are interested in that, that focuses more on broadening your knowledge of art history and working on teaching skills. And if you'd like to know more about the programs, there's a link down there at the bottom that you can use to find out more about them. We are a smallish program. We have 6 full-time faculty with different specializations from Etruscan and Roman art through contemporary art. We also have a specialist in Japanese art. There are a few book covers that are associated with their research. And I'd like to concur with previous speakers who've mentioned that it's really important to do some homework on who the people are in the department. You want to study with people. If you have a particular strong interest in one area, you don't want to apply to a program where there's nobody who works in that area. If you're open to anything, then I guess it doesn't really matter. But it's worthwhile to look them up, see what they've written, read things that they've written if you like their approach to doing art history, or the particular subjects that they've worked on. That's your experience with faculty is the heart of your graduate experience, and so you want to make sure that you're applying to programs where you're going to be working with the faculty that have interests that align with your own. And just a little bit about Northern Illinois University. It's located in DeKalb, Illinois, which has a population of about 40,000. So it's a town, but it's 60 miles west of Chicago. So you can go into the city for the day, and Chicago is full of wonderful galleries and theater and all sorts of things, all the cultural opportunities that come with a big city. It's a public research university. If you're familiar with the Carnegie classifications, it's an R2 university. It has approximately 15,000 students, so it's a good size, but not absolutely humongous. And 3,700 of those are graduate students. Students coming from out of state pay the same tuition as in-state students from Illinois. We also have some funding in the form of assistantships and scholarships, so we can help our students in that way. And we've got, even though we're close to Chicago, we also have some of our own art and museum resources. There's the NIU Art Museum. There's a fabulous collection of Burmese art, and the Peck Museum of Anthropology also has very interesting collections. And this also provides students with opportunities for internships, sometimes assistantships with these museums. So you have some opportunities for practical experience as well. And I'll just leave you with a photograph of the campus, and you can see the School of Art and Design. We're the east end of campus, right by the lagoon, the prettiest part of campus. And if you're ever out in DeKalb, please come and pay us a visit, and feel free to contact me, and I'll show you around. And I'll stop with that.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, all of our panelists. So I'm going to spotlight all of you here. So, oops, I'm trying to add you all together. Let's see. I guess it's not going to let me do all the spotlights at once. So, I think we'll just have it. So whenever you speak, your name, you will pop up. Oops. Everyone can see you. Sorry, I'm pushing the wrong buttons here. Too many buttons at once. All right. So I like to open things up to sort of our kind of broader questions. And I'm actually going to jump off of what Professor Van Dijk was just talking about and thinking about, how do you know when you are finding the right graduate programs for you? What are the types of things that one should be looking for and figuring out where's going to be the right spot for you to end up? And so I'm just curious to hear what your advice would be when students are deliberating between so many different options that are out there of how they can best determine what's going to fit their needs and their interests. So please feel free to jump in as you wish.
Yeah, I think I would agree, with what was already said, that obviously you want to choose a place that has someone who is working in the area that you're directly interested in. You might also think about things that you've read as a student, other works of scholarship, and if there is a scholar with whom you sort of identify maybe more with their work, their methodology, that take that into consideration as well. See where they're working and consider that program. Cost, of course, is a big factor too. Places that offer graduate assistantships, in our case at USC in South Carolina, our grad assistantships will convert even out-of-state and international tuition to in-state rates automatically, and then discount that even further. So it's almost like 88% is covered in tuition, and then you get a stipend on top of that. So I would often encourage students, especially for a master's degree, to sort of go where the money is, and invest maybe in a doctoral degree a little more if that's where you're going.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Yes, Allie.
Yeah, I think people are coming out of their grad degrees with different senses of what they might want to do in the future. And I had very little sense. So when I did my MA, I needed it to try to figure out that I wanted to do the PhD. And at the end of the MA, I was like, I'm not done. I'm not done doing this. And that's how I knew that I wanted to do a PhD. But so you might have that sense of specialization and this idea that I want to be a medievalist and I want to go in this direction, but you might not. And I think thinking about that, some degrees are allowing you to really specialize, and some are giving you this very broad base. And so you might even have had a little bit of less of art history in your undergrad, and then you need to go into a program where it's very rigorously dunking you right into that discipline that might be a little bit new to you. So I think thinking it's hard to know at your stage, and I remember this as being one of the hardest times of my life was finishing college and not knowing. So if you feel that way, I think it's okay, but that you trying to figure out what the ultimate goal might be, and then which MA program might help you to do that. And that can be a financial question, it can be a geographical question, but it can also be, I know I want to be a curator, or I know I want to work in museums. There might be programs that are more set up to help you get experience in that. You've seen such an array of what people have said. So I think getting a sense, and if you don't have a sense, going into a program that allows you to try a lot of different things and do a lot, do an internship and do, work experience and taking a lot of classes and different kinds of things. And then a lot of it is just checking things off a list. Oh, I didn't like that. That's positive to do that, right? So you might want to be in a program that's doing a lot of different things and less specialization. So that's another way to think about it, is what is the ultimate goal? Although I know that's really hard to know at your stage.
Another thing that you might want to think about doing, again, focusing on faculty and who are the faculty that you might want to work with. Sometimes I think undergraduates don't realize that it's perfectly okay to email faculty at a university and let them know that you're thinking about graduate school and what you're interested in, and start a conversation with them, so that you will start to get a bit of a sense of who that faculty member is, and they'll start to get a bit of a sense of who you are. And that way you can, kind of explore whether your interests align with the interests of the faculty member. So that's just a bit of something I wish I had done. Learn from our experience, all the things that we didn't do that you could probably do better.
I think I would definitely underscore that. That was something that was so helpful to me when I was looking at graduate programs, is I literally emailed every single faculty member that I thought I might want to study with. And it was so helpful. And it was also telling too to see who got back to me. Thought, okay, these are the people who are going to be supportive of me. So when I had that moment of crisis, which we all do at some point in graduate school, I think we all have a moment of self-doubt and think, I can't do this anymore. Those are going to be the people who are going to be your cheerleaders, who will be there and say, it's going to be fine. You've got this. We believe in you. And that really proved to be extraordinarily helpful later on down the line. That I ended up going to the right choice for me was because I had already built some connections with faculty already. So I really appreciate what you said, Dr. Van Dijk. And Sara, Dr. Lichtman, yes.
Sarah's fine. Thank you. I just want to echo this and also remind everyone that, you can come and sit in on classes also is something that's possible. I think at many places, certainly at Pratt, you can do that. And for the 2-year MA, which is what some of us offer, it's so important to know, for example, who's going to be on sabbatical the next year, right? So these are really important questions, because if you only have 2 years in a program and the faculty member with whom you want to work is going to be away for 50% of that time, that's something to know. And I also just want to add that you can talk about your applications also with directors of programs. You can engage in dialogue about your personal statement. I think it's great that Brown has this workshop. That is just what a fantastic idea for everyone to do. So just don't be shy, right? Really try and engage with, I think, all of us, because just the way you want to come to our schools, we want you to come to us as well. We want to make a good match for everyone. So the more we get to know you and can take notes and communicate with our faculties and committees, the better it is for your application, the better it is for the right match for you as well.
Absolutely. I know it's probably a bad analogy, but I feel it's a bit like dating.
That's what I always say.
Both sides of the partnership have to be the right fit for each other. And so, yeah, there needs to be that kind of dialogue. Professor Peck, yes.
Yeah, going back to what you said about, contacting those professors before you apply, making sure that we have a face to go with the name. Like we will advocate for you when you're in the program, but also, you need someone to advocate for you when we're going through the files and looking at applications in the admissions stage. So you really, really want to reach out to us well in advance so that we can get to know you, engage if it will be a good fit. But I would also add, in addition to reaching out to faculty, reach out to current or recent graduate students from that program. They will give you a very, hopefully, honest feedback, about the program and their experience. And oftentimes they are happy to do so as someone who's maybe closer to you, in age and experience. So don't be afraid to reach out to other students as well.
I concur 100%. If you want to get the dirt on any program, ask the current graduate students. They'll tell you everything. And so I'm going to turn the floor over to Pamudu, because here we go. The graduate student will tell all.
I've gotten emails like that over the last few years of graduate study, and every single time I've Zoomed with whoever wants to come to Brown, and it's been really interesting, and it's been a really great opportunity to often take away some unnecessary stresses that people might have about a department as well. I want to also plug the statement writing workshop again, because I wish I had that when I was applying. And last year, I think we had close to 100 people on the Zoom. And you don't have to want to go to Brown to attend this. It is, in a way, it started a few years ago, and we do view it as like something that is really important in a public service that we do want to do for people who might not have the support from faculty before they come to grad school to read their applications or help them through this. So it is an opportunity for people who might not have otherwise have other people to ask these questions from. What do you put on a statement of purpose? What do you do in the application process? Because the questions that we get often do go into, should we email somebody? Who should we work with? And it's a really great resource, and I would highly recommend it.
Yes, I have to say that is absolute genius. I think a lot of programs now, since we've all now learned about this, we all may start copying your example here. But yeah, that was such a wonderful service to provide. And I think that is the most anxiety inducing part of the application is that component of it typically. Thank you so much. Professor Jacobi, yes.
Yes, I just wanted to add, I think it wouldn't be just recommended to email and get in touch with the college. I think it should be, it's mandatory, really. I wholeheartedly concur. It's very important for graduate school to make the connections and have someone to welcome you in also. Also, on this note, I was just reminded something I should have mentioned in my talk about making the connections. Like, say, if you were going to come to our university, Bar-Ilan University in Israel, I would assume that people don't just load up their truck and come make a drive over to Jerusalem to Tel Aviv on a whim. It's something you're going to want to put a lot of thought and concern into. And there's another thing that we have in our department is we have a department seminar once a week. And when the COVID happened, we moved the seminar to Zoom. And so those are open to the public, and anyone can Zoom into our seminars. About 80 to 90% of the talks are in English, so they're very accessible. We have a very international audience for the talks, and so I invite anyone who's interested to get in touch with us and send you a link to the seminar, and then it can help prospective students to get a feel for what the department is like and what we're offering.
That's wonderful. And I should say to all of our faculty panelists today, if you do have upcoming programs and things like that that students can register for, if you'd like to send me those links as well, I will include those on the information sheet that I share with everyone. So they'll have all of that at hand. That would be wonderful. Dr. Ishii-Bear, yes, your thoughts.
Yeah, everyone is saying such great things, and I completely agree with getting in touch with faculty and students. And that makes me think too that it will give you a good sense of the culture of the university and the program. So like, for example, small programs versus large programs, like ours is a really small, kind of tight-knit community. So, you can hear more about that from our graduate students. And then also just being in contact with professors, going to info sessions. We have like online ones in fall and spring. Those are also really good because we can put a face with a name. And when we go to see this large stack of applications, we're like, oh yeah, I remember because they went to our open studios or our graduate info session. And they were really cool and interested. And that's really beneficial for us when we get to that, going through the application phase.
Marvelous. Thank you. Dr. Leyden, yes, you wanted to jump in with something.
Yes, typical sort of Courtauld comment here, I have to say. But I mean, I think one has to remain as well. As academics, we have a tendency to sort of forget that students, I think, need to be strategic and do keep an eye on what they're doing afterwards. We are, in history of art, an incredibly small community globally. And therefore, if there is a particular end game to your studies, you really have to start making an impression almost immediately after your bachelor's degree, starting to get to know all of these people who work in that area, and they may well be outside of academia. So that can often help you make up your mind where you want to go geographically, but more importantly than that, to get into the networks that you will need to be in order to actually find employment at the end of it. And I think, it's easy as academics to kind of forget that you know, a lot of people will be going into that horrible real world of employment. And therefore, it is very important to be strategic about that and decide really what it is you want to do as quickly as possible and get into those networks.
Yes, I think that's fantastic advice. And also, too, I think it's really helpful to talk to people in your field of interest and really ask them and say, what are you looking for in sort of entry level? What type of degrees are the most valuable? Because what you think might be the logical fit isn't always the logical fit. And you don't want to find out that at the back end after you've gotten a degree and then go, wait a second, that isn't going to open the doors that I hoped that it was going to. So I think, as you said, networking constantly is really beneficial. And as you said, it is a small world. It's not 7 degrees of separation, it's like 2 in all reality. And I have to say, I mean, on students, you can see from how many people have shown up to be on this panel today. People are really supportive of one another. By and large, people are wonderful, wonderful colleagues. I have found constantly, just total strangers have been so kind and have been willing to help with all sorts of advice and information. And you know, it's something that I really have loved about being an art historian, is because people understand the value of collaboration in this field and realize it's the only way we get our work done oftentimes. And so thank you so much. This is great advice.
Yeah. Sorry, just to agree with that, just to come back for a second and say absolutely that, yeah, we all, particularly those of us who work in these kind of niche areas, love people coming to ask us questions about those niche areas. So really important to get to know the people and get those networks up and running as quickly as possible. And as I say, I transferred from another career into academia, and so having the right degree, I've just been through this process, and I can certainly say, just as you said, to hammer that point home, often it's not the degree you might expect that will get the job that you would expect. For instance, if I had decided to go into curation, in heritage curation, which is something I'd thought of doing, I did a PhD in architectural history, which a lot of curating bodies and heritage bodies are not actually that interested in, and would much rather you'd gone off and done a master's degree in heritage curation specifically. So definitely worth doing the homework.
Fantastic. And Dr. Stielau, yes.
Yeah, this is just to the what we've been discussing about contacting members of staff. I mean, I think what I would say is it's really important that you really read all the information that's already available to you online. And I don't know how it is at other programs, and I'm assuming it's the case for the Courtauld as well, but we, like at UCL, we hold virtual open days in the cycle leading up to you applying. And so that's a great way to have some of your questions answered, you know, in a way where it's kind of set up to do exactly that. And I will say that our process of evaluation of applications is shared with the Central Admissions Department. And so we are not actually reading every single person's application. There's sort of like certain standards that we set and we oversee, but it's not maybe the same thing that some other colleagues here are describing. And so that's true for the MA program. For the PhD program, I also wanted to mention that if you're going to apply for PhD programs in other countries, it's important for you to figure out what the system is there and also the timeline. So in the UK, the funding situation for PhDs is changing at the moment, and we don't know what it's going to be in the coming years. But up until this point, it was that you contacted a supervisor with your project, so your idea already of what you want your PhD project to be. And then they work with you to apply to the department and then apply to the big funding bodies to be funded. And that all has to be completely done by the end of January. And I'm saying that because sometimes I get emails from people that are interested in this process, but it's like after this whole cycle has already happened. And so it's just something to sort of start to figure out that it might not be like what you're hearing because you're in a certain place. It might not be the same in this other system. And I don't really know how it works in Canada, for example, but that's just like currently, we don't know exactly how it's going to work. But this idea that in the US, and I think maybe North America, maybe in Canada as well, when you go into a PhD program, you're going to have coursework. So you're applying as a person with ideas, possibly for what you want to do. In the UK, you're applying with your project. And that means the bibliography, understanding the scholarship, like having a whole idea. You're usually coming in already almost always with the MA. So you've had that time to develop. So the PhD is a much shorter and different thing. So I just want to mention that because I think, you know, it's like, because we just started to talk a little bit about PhD programs, it's a very, very different system, and sort of like being able to understand that and knowing that you're in the right timeline for contacting someone in that case is important, because it takes a lot of time to develop the project in order to get to the point to apply to a funding body.
And I'm so glad you mentioned timing, because actually there was a question that popped up in the chat, and a student was asking, you know, when should you start making these kinds of contacts? And I agree that, like, for a lot of the general information, yes, please read over the material that these programs have so lovingly provided. If you're asking them the same information that's already online, I will tell you, as a faculty member, and I'm sure I speak for everyone, our inboxes are bombarded on a daily, like, way, a tsunami of email, and things do get lost in the mix. It's not that we don't care and don't think you're wonderful, but sometimes it's a lot. And it is frustrating when people are asking you things, you're like, just go look on the website. So I would say for the contacting actual faculty members, that's really useful for asking things like, I'm really interested in the MA program. I would love to study with you. Are you going to be around? Will you be on sabbatical? Those, like, very personal things that will not be publicly stated. You know, I think that's where it's good to build that kind of rapport with someone and not waste someone's time, because that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want them to be frustrated with you, like, oh my gosh, this person, I can't even, and you haven't even met them yet. But yeah, so thinking about the timing of all of this, and I know our time is becoming a little more limited. So I think I want to tie this into probably what is the other, like, massive question on every student's mind, and that is, what are the qualities that you're looking for in an ideal candidate for graduate school? You know, what are the magic boxes that need to be checked off? And I know this is not a universal thing, but I think this is very reassuring for students when they kind of know a better sense of what's expected. And then with that answer, maybe thinking about the timing of it all. I would say, just in general, I think sooner is always better than later. You know, time does slip by so quickly. But I think the sooner you can start doing due diligence and reading and learning about things, the better. I will also say too, sometimes it is good to take a little bit of a breather between undergraduate and graduate school, and you can invest the time in finding the right thing for you than, like, frantically doing this your senior year on top of your thesis, on top of this, and maybe not putting your best foot forward in your applications, which can happen because we're throwing things together at the last minute. And or maybe not having the chance to really see what's out there, and then regretting some of those choices you made in a hurried, sort of short-sighted way. So I open the floor up to all of you. So what are the kinds of things that kind of, like, ring the bell where you think, yes, this is going to be a great candidate for our current students who are listening in?
So perhaps
So hard with Zoom. Please go ahead. I was going to just very quickly follow up on what you said, that I couldn't agree more, that it's so much better for students to take a year and get themselves together and maybe work in the field, or maybe try and publish a book review, or do something where they can do their research, they can really, really, really put their best foot forward, they can really hone their writing sample, they can take the time to get to know the programs, and then also demonstrate, I think, to the committee a real interest in going into the field of art and design history. Now, doesn't mean that you can't be a senior and come right in. We have many seniors who can do this, and that's fine too. But there's no shame in applying to graduate school 5 years after you graduate, right? I don't know everyone's experience here, but I think we all entered, as you say, right, Kyle, you have different experiences of when one connects with the field. So really take your time. And I think that's something that shows, if you show on your application you've been working at a museum for the last 3 years, that's worth a tremendous amount for the committee to understand why it is you want to go to graduate school. I think, you know, the differences sometimes students don't understand between undergraduate and graduate, is we really want to understand what it is about graduate school now and this particular program for you, right? So it differs for every single person. Why is this the right choice for you to take now? And I think if you can answer that question, that makes your application much, much stronger.
Absolutely. And actually, I'd say it's not just for graduate school applications, that's for job applications. You know, why this particular place? Why this particular time? Why are you the right fit for it? And if you answer those questions, that's the golden trifecta right there. Dr. Leyden, you wanted to jump in. Yes.
Yes, apologies for that, but yes, I can certainly vouch for the fact that you can take a few years to get there. It took me 16 years from my undergraduate degree to get back to graduate school in art history, so having done a very different job in the meantime. But just to say that what we look for at the Courtauld, when we were established in 1932, we, as I said, we were established as this missionary centre which would bring art to all. And what we really want to see is a strong, independent voice as a sort of independent architectural historian. And the more you can show originality, the more you can show your personal passion for the subject, that is what gets you into the Courtauld. If you can actually demonstrate to us that you have something interesting to say, and it may well be, just picking up on what's just been said, it takes you that year to go out and figure out exactly what it is that you want to talk about, and that you have something to say about that's well worth doing. But obviously within the Courtauld, and I think UCL as well, it's quite a short amount of time you have. We're 9 months. To kind of demonstrate at the end of that you've actually produced something of very high quality in a very short amount of time. So if you come to us demonstrating the fact that you have already developed those skills and you have something to say which is original and which is independent, that's what we mostly want to see. And if you can demonstrate that passion, we would love to hear from you at the Courtauld.
Fantastic. And I think you can do that in two different ways, of course, because typically in most graduate school applications, now I'm speaking for a whole, so please correct me, but almost always there's always like that personal statement component, and then there's also the writing sample component. And you can show both of those things, in both of those components, your passion, your interest, your original thoughts and ideas, no one wants to read a book report. They want to read like what you can do. So Dr. Peck, yes, and then Dr. Stielau, and then Dr. Jacobi, yes. Thank you so much.
We have much advice. I would also add, so since we're talking, mostly to students today, probably excellent students, everyone applying to a graduate program, more likely than not, you all have excellent grades. You're all probably at the top of your class. So you're competing against people who are just like you in that regard. So just keep that in mind, that, everyone applying is probably, a qualified candidate based on grades and things like that. So you do really want to stand out or stick out, which is what I'm hearing, some of my colleagues say as well. And so that could take the form of many things. Obviously, your personal statement or that academic statement based on your project or what it is you can offer. But in our department, and I assume other departments as well, we have a language requirement, meaning if you're going to study French painting, you need to know French. You need to have command over French. So think about, other things that you can offer, or other things that you can kind of show off, right? To make us convinced that this person is qualified.
Excellent. And I'm so glad you brought up the language component, because this is sometimes the Achilles heel of graduate students, where they just can't pass that translation exam that they're required to do. So this is the value of learning more languages in life. If you become an art historian, an architectural historian, an archaeologist, you name it, you are going to learn other languages. And so take advantage of it while you're an undergraduate student. Learn Mandarin, learn French, learn German, learn Italian, Spanish, whatever it might be that's related to the fields that you're interested in. The dividends will be great, and it will save you a lot of headaches in graduate school. So you could just focus on your graduate school studies and not having to learn German at the same time or something like that. Dr. Stielau, yes.
Yes, I learned German as a very old person, and it was very painful. And so when we're talking about maybe taking some time after undergrad and before graduate school, that might be a great time to learn a language as you're having a job that's like less stress, because you're kind of doing both things. So that could be some way, if you know that you want to do French painting, that might be a way to get what you need to kind of prepare yourself. I think at UCL, we're really, because we actually get people that have had undergraduate degrees in different disciplines, what we need to see in the application is that you know what art history is. And as other speakers have said, that you know what our program is, you know why you are applying to our program, and you know what we're doing, and that you want to be a part of that, you can articulate that. We don't have a separate writing sample, so your personal statement is your writing. So if you think about how to kind of combine those. And I just wanted to say one little thing about passion, which is that I learned this about writing job letters later in life. But you sometimes think that words about passion are convincing, but because all of us are so passionate, all of you are so passionate, sometimes those words actually don't have the effect that you think they're going to have. And what actually does have the effect is like specificity, and for us, like showing how you think. So it doesn't really matter what you're writing about in the personal statement, as long as we get the sense that you know what art history is, you know what we are, what we're doing, but that we get to see you thinking. And sort of that kind of specificity is what shows your abilities and your passion. It's not just saying that you have passion.
I'm so glad you said that. I often tell my students there's a difference between telling and showing. Telling is when I say, I'm so passionate about whatever. I love museums. Guess what? We all love museums here, folks. But if you can show that you love museums by the fact that you had an internship or that you volunteered, this is how you communicate that passion. People can see that. And like, again, in job applications, people can say, I'm so responsible and trustworthy. No, you can't say that about yourself, but you can show that about yourself by the kinds of positions you've held and the responsibilities that you had in those roles. So thank you so much for bringing up these wonderful points. And Dr. Jacobi, yes, thank you.
Thanks. I just wanted to add that yeah, I agree with all this advice, everything that I'm hearing, and some of it I wish I had applied more myself. But for just want to add, for our department, we have 2 tracks. So a lot of what's been said about investing and doing your own research before going to grad school and picking up languages and doing internships and things like that before going to grad school, that would all hold true for our thesis track program, which is where with the more independently motivated students, and there you're going to want to make a connection with some of the faculty before going in and beginning work on a master's thesis. And that track is a track which leads to a doctoral program, also either at our university or at another Israeli university or another university around the world. But we have another track also for students who are maybe they have an interest in a general interest in the field of Jewish studies, but don't have a particular focus or don't feel independently motivated to take on a thesis, an independent project. And so it's possible to just come in and just take classes. And so this is really open for anybody, as long as you fulfill the entry requirements for the university about GPA, and things like that. Those are open to anybody and quite easy. But they unless someone will convert that into a thesis, then it would be like with a master's degree. With a master's degree in Israel, say for instance, it may not necessarily be so easy to find employment. It's possible, but we have such a competition. We have so many degree holders, advanced degree holders here, that without a doctorate, it can be very difficult. But a master's degree is very useful for entering a wide variety of professions. So we have these different tracks open, not for different students with at different levels.
Well, and this is what's wonderful is that there's this incredible range of programs that are out there, from the ones that really embrace people who are like, I'm not quite sure what I want to do yet, to the ones where they're hyper specific and you come and they're very focused, and often they're shorter because you just jump right into it and off you go. And that's what's so wonderful, is that there is no one size fits all. there's something for everybody, wherever you are in your life and your understanding of what your interests are. So thank you so much for pointing that out, that not everyone has to have their whole life mapped out for them quite yet. I still haven't figured out sometimes what I want to do when I grow up. So it's good to be open and be flexible. Yes, Dr. Van Dijk, yes, and then Dr. Graciano. Oops. Did we lose Dr. Van Dijk here?
No, sorry. I
There you go. That's okay.
One part of the application process that nobody has touched on yet is the letters of recommendation. And those are really important too. And you want to make sure that you're asking people who can speak to your interests and your abilities and your passion for art history. Typically, we expect those to be from professors that you've studied with. And because of that, especially to the shy students out there, it's really important that you cultivate relationships with your undergraduate professors so they know who you are and they know that what you can do. I mean, all of you have just done an excellent thing by participating in this symposium, and there's going to be a recording. I understand. So if you're asking a professor to write a recommendation letter for you, I mean, certainly if you've worked with them, they know something about your work, but let them know about your participation in this symposium. Give them a link to the recording. The more information that you can provide them with about who you are and what you've done and what your interests are, the better letter that they can write for you. And those letters count for a lot. And so you want them to be really substantive and from people who can speak to your strengths in a specific way. And so you help your writers, you help your recommenders out by letting them know all those things, all those great things about you that will help them write the letters.
Thank you. I'm so glad you touched on this, because this is really a key component, because those are those external people that can sing your praises and say things about you that you can't say about yourself necessarily. And I think I can say for professors, sometimes you have students that come to you and they're asking for a letter of recommendation. You think, I've had you in my classes, but I don't think you've ever spoken to me outside of class, and I'm rather limited of what I can say. I can evaluate you on your coursework, but I really don't have a sense of who you are and things you've done and what direction you want to go. And so I certainly tell all of my students, before you graduate, you want to have at least 3 people that you consider mentors, because you're probably going to need 3 letters of recommendation for things somewhere along the line, and to have 3 people who can really speak about you, and it's very clear that they know you well, they've watched you grow and develop. And I often tell students that, with those mentors, you should go visit them, at least whether you're on a semester system, a quarter system, however it might be. Just drop in. We have office hours, and we're often alone and neglected during our office hours, and come keep us company, because we love talking to students. That's why we got into education. So take advantage of those opportunities. Dr. Graciano.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo so many of those things. I'm from North Jersey, and I was just an average kid, and went off to college on a scholarship, and I sort of found art history along the way. If I could go back in time and tell my 17-year-old self what I do for a living right now, my 17-year-old self would be very surprised that this is what I've chosen to do. But in undergrad, I found art history sort of late in the game, and really made that concerted effort to reach out and visit my professors, like you mentioned, go to office hours, and I spent a lot of time loitering in the slide libraries to try and get some of their time to sort of make them understand that I was serious about having this as my major, even though at that time I still wasn't entirely sold on going to graduate school for this. I was thinking also about law school as a potential option. And my minor was labor studies, and I had thought about becoming a labor lawyer. And at the sort of 0 hour, I switched my mind completely to go to graduate school for art history. And I think it was through those relationships that I built that I got those strong letters of recommendation and moved on. And the other thing was languages. Really, really having the good fortune of having taken German and French as an undergraduate student and getting to a point where I could pass a proficiency test, having Spanish from childhood and English, of course, as first language, all helped, right? And so I try to tell my undergraduate students, take a foreign language and take one that is going to really help you in the field that you want to choose. Don't just funnel into Spanish because that's what you had taken in high school, and then you want to go and study, Asian painting. It's like, well, you've got to figure it out. You can't just do that with Spanish. So those are just key things. And then the final thing is work experience. I worked as an undergraduate student in the summers and sometimes during the semester. I worked all through graduate school in office jobs here and there, and I got a real sense of like what it is to work in the real like commercial world. And I also had internships along the way too at museums. And so all of those things helped me to understand the field of art history and how what I do relates to the outside world. And then of course, all those office skills as working as an administrative assistant and executive assistant, really helped me to be an organized office worker in the university bureaucracy. So being a professor, that's a big part of my job. As graduate director, that's a big part of my job. And so it's a surprisingly very office kind of career in many ways in academia. But anyway, thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I agree. Getting as much real world experience as you can is enormously beneficial in so many different ways. You learn a lot of transferable skills that will serve you well in graduate school and help you to stay organized and focused and on top of things because, writing a multi-100-page dissertation is an undertaking, and you've got to be able to keep all these things straight at one time, and it's a lot. And then, internships, taking advantage of, the time you have, especially the summer months, when you've got a little more free time and not your classes, is really, really helpful. And also is another way to make you stand out and show that your interest in the field. Dr. Peck, you had your hand up, and I didn't want to miss you.
Going back to the letters of rec and to reaching out to your professors or advisors or mentors, whoever they are at the university. I would say maybe when you're doing that, maybe right at the beginning or pretty soon after contacting those individuals, feel free to provide us, right, with your CV, with an example of your writing, even if you've taken our courses, or even if you're that far into the application for grad school, give us a copy of your application so that we can reference it to make sure that what you're highlighting is the same as what we're highlighting, because we want those documents to kind of align. But also because we have many students that we teach and advise. And yes, we want to say that we remember each and every one, but it is nice to jog our memory with these documents by providing that material to us. And it also shows us, what you're most interested in. We talk to you, but sometimes what you're writing that might reveal different things to us. And then lastly, and I forget which study it was, but there have been some studies recently that have shown that students, both undergraduate and graduate students, who keep in touch with their advisors and with their professors throughout their career, throughout their lifetime, have a much higher rate of success, like professional success. So really make sure that even if after you go on to graduate school, that you're still keeping in touch with those professors who wrote your letters of rec. Not just because we want to hear from you and because it's lovely, but because there might be connections or networking opportunities. And just by hearing from you, you would be at an advantage for those.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because yes, success relies so much on the connections that we build with other people, and maintaining those. And it does take a lot of work and time and energy, but it is so rewarding to do that. And it can be mutually beneficial. There's nothing more than we as faculty members love watching our students flourish and grow and they get their graduate degrees, and then we can even bring them on to projects maybe that we're working on and books that we're doing and things like that. And so, yeah, there might be a lot of other opportunities that might come of it that, long after you've graduated as an undergraduate, you may be collaborating with people that you learn from. I know our time is limited, but I would like to open up the chat or people can raise their hand for other questions, maybe things that we haven't touched on that you are curious about or concerned about as our student attendees. You know, we're very happy to answer anything, everything. I'm sure you probably have lots of things we haven't touched on yet, so please don't be shy. So I'll give everyone kind of a moment to type things in the chat box, or again, if it's just easier to raise your hand, and you can do that through the reactions button, which will pop up at the bottom of your Zoom screen.
If I might jump in related to the letters of reference, make sure you give your the people you're asking to write for you sufficient time to write the letter. Like a month is a good amount of time to ask before the deadline, not 3 days.
Yes, isn't that the truth? Yes, believe it or not, we do have other things going on in our lives. Occasionally, here and there, we just are chained to our desks all the time. And then also too, you know, when you ask, again, providing helpful information, CV, a writing sample, any of the materials that you're putting together for an application. I would also note too that it's really important to ask permission before you put someone's name and contact information in, because the minute you do that, that person's going to get a prompt to submit a letter, and it's awfully embarrassing after the fact to have to go and ask someone after you already put their name down. So please be sure to ask ahead of time just to avoid that. Okay, let's see. I have a question from Libby Morse, who would love to hear more about the journal that Dr. Jacobi mentioned. So Ars Judaica. Great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And would you mind telling us a bit more about it and sort of maybe the timeline for publications, when the deadlines are?
Yes. So the journal is Ars Judaica. I can show you a copy here. Let's see. It's like a kind of coffee table. Can you see? Is it blurred? Kind of a coffee table book like this, fully illustrated. It comes out once a year, and we're now in our 20th issue. It continues a very long line of journals of this sort. The first journal was over 100 years ago, started by Rachel Vishnitzer, called Rimon, actually. And there have been, Hebrew University published a Journal of Jewish Arts for many years. And now we have Ars Judaica, and there's another journal of Jewish art called Images, published by Brill. And we work very closely together, actually, the two journals, very much in cooperation. And we have a book series also, which is published by Brill, and is the editors are the editors of Images and Ars Judaica. So we're entering our 20th issue. We're always eager, willing to accept submissions from art history scholars, say general art history scholars who might dabble in Jewish art. And we have a very liberal definition of what Jewish art is. It can be art that's made by Jews, or art that depicts Jews, or people, or artists of Jewish descent. We're very liberal about that, and we're very open to publishing from art historians who do not specialize in Jewish art, the vast majority of art historians. And we also publish from scholars of Jewish studies who are primarily based in textual studies. I myself did my master's degree in Talmud, and still consider myself a textually based person, but one thing led to another, and I found myself here. It's a long story, probably too long for this group, but we're always, you can the submission schedule is open. We do have a couple of special issues planned. The next one is on animals. And that's really the last minute. If anyone wants to submit on that, you really have to do that very soon. And we'll have a following issue will be on crafts, Jewish craftswork. So that's open right now also, you recall. But for our general studies, they wouldn't be published until after those two issues. So, but people are welcome to submit anytime, and we'll get the peer review process going. If you contact me directly, we'll do everything we can to facilitate the peer review process, double blind peer review process, like all referee journals. But we can try to expedite the process. And we're fully indexed by Scopus, Web of Science. So it'll almost certainly count for points for your department publication with us. So we're very eager and welcome submissions.
Excellent. Thank you so
yes,
much.
and we're distributed by Liverpool University Press. So many of the more recent issues are available from them. Great, thanks.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing. Kind of along those same lines, there was another question asking about publications and saying, scroll through the chat here. How do undergraduates and recent graduates find opportunities to publish and peer review, or is that reserved for those more advanced in their careers? Is it a requirement for graduate programs to have already been published? So before I open this up to our panelists, I do want to say, please check out the Symposium's webpage. There's a button on the homepage that says publish. And if you click on that, that will take you to a list, and it's sort of an accordion list. There are history journals. These are all tailored to undergraduates, but there's also things in Islamic studies or American studies or just general humanities journals. Those are probably the easiest to be published in as an undergraduate student, but that isn't to say that those are the only options that are out there. So I will let other people jump in freely. I wouldn't say this is an expectation that you have to be accepted into graduate school by any stretch of the imagination.
Sorry, jump in quickly. I know we're just at time, so I'll be super brief. I'm also the managing editor of the Journal of Design History, right? So peer-reviewed journal, and we are always looking for book reviews, exhibition reviews, and these are great sort of gateways into peer review publications where maybe you don't feel you're ready to publish, you know, a 20-page full-scale peer-reviewed article. By writing a review, you're also demonstrating, as we said early on, I think maybe Dr. Van Dijk says, is about setting up an expertise, right? Of showing, look, I went to this exhibition and it really spoke to me for this reason, or I read this book and this is something I want to pursue. And you can reach out to journals, you can reach out to the reviews editors. All the information is online, CAA reviews and College Art Association, lots of places. And you know that you might be able to do it. I wouldn't suggest writing the review before you're in touch with the reviews editor, but you can solicit and explain and discuss your qualifications of why you're the person to write this review. And they're short and they're really a good way to start. And they're certainly excellent to appear on your application.
Excellent. I think that is fantastic advice. Let's see here. We have questions about how to find internships for the time between undergrad and graduate school. I will say there are more and more internships out there for postgraduate students. In fact, sometimes there are positions that are not available to undergraduate students. They're looking for people who have already graduated. I recommend you go and look on the web pages, particularly museums and other cultural institutions. They often have this kind of information there that you can find. and other questions that folks had, asking about, how do you reach out to a mentor? And thank you so much, Dr. Stielau, for answering that. Yes, I think that's perfect advice. If you all want to check out in the chat, that she recommends that you simply go say, I'm interested in your area of research, be particular about what you're saying, and I'm considering applying to the MA program. Will you be teaching courses in this particular field? And I think that's a great way of phrasing it. Uh, Other questions that people had, Amy Khan had a question, and it looks like both Dr. Stielau and Dr. Leyden answered it regarding being mentored by faculty and scholars from sort of collaborative institutions together, which happens frequently, particularly in institutions that are more urban areas where there are lots of cultural institutions nearby. And to Dr. Jacobi, there was a question from Hannah Carroll who says, would you be interested in any of the papers we presented here with relevant topics? That's a lot of reading for him. I'll be honest, there's 300 something papers.
Oh, well, maybe we wouldn't be interested in all of them, but I'm sure we'd be interested in selected papers that deal with Jewish studies for sure. We would definitely be open and interested. And why not submit if you have a draft of a study and you receive positive feedback from your instructors. There's no reason not to submit to a journal. The worst that can happen is you'll get rejected, but you'll probably learn a lot and receive a lot of feedback.
And I should note too, talking about rejection, rejection is part of the game, okay? You will be probably accepted to things like 10% of the time, to be totally honest with you. I could wallpaper rooms with rejection letters for all different sorts of things, whether it was graduate schools, whether it was this, whether it was that. It's normal. So if you are told no sometimes, please don't let this end your desire to pursue a future in your chosen field, okay? Don't let that discourage you. This is just part and parcel of the game. And actually, it's how we get better at doing things, or you get feedback about work you've done. And sometimes you get those reviewers' comments, and it can be a little devastating at first because your research is your baby. But they're doing it to help you improve your work ultimately. If they didn't care, they wouldn't give feedback, to be totally honest. It takes time and effort to do that. There was also questions about learning another language. Are there ways to get paid while learning those skills? So during a gap year, how do we realistically go about learning new languages besides taking up a minor as an undergrad? I can say there's certainly programs like for example, the JET program in Japan, where you go and you're teaching English in a country and you get to live there for a year. And so then you can also begin to learn the local language as well. I will also say there are a number of kind of intense language programs. I know at least the United States, I know Middlebury College, I think, used to offer these a lot in the summer, that are very intensive learning experiences over the summer, and they are particularly tailored to art history and art history terminology, and they can be really helpful as well. Yeah, Dr. Stielau.
Yes, I did the Middlebury language program when I was in graduate school to learn German, and I was very much older than everyone else, and it was incredible. I mean, it's also expensive because it's like a really focused thing. But I mean, in terms of the language question, I think it is like the idea of going with an internship or studying teaching English abroad. But it can also just be a mindset that you're having, even if you're like, I'm going to get a job, but my real life of my mind will be focused on learning this language. And there are free language opportunities. There's so many online language opportunities. opportunities. So if that's not something that's a possibility for you to travel abroad, I think there's still a way for you to do it. It's just like how you set your mind that rather than doing a million things that year, you might be having a lower stress job, but what you're really concentrating is learning the language and then maybe getting to travel to the place for a little bit or something. So I think it's like not an either or situation that you're doing an undergrad or you have some other way. There's just like the way that you've decided that that's the thing you're committing to.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And actually, I really want to call you soon to be Dr. Tennakoon. I think that's how we need to address you right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also want to plug like the American Institute of Indian Studies and has summer intensive language programs that unfortunately it was during COVID when I took it. So it was on Zoom, but in person, you get to actually go to India and immerse yourself and do a summer language program. And there are the range of languages, South Asian languages that are available. And also there are South Asian language programs at the University of Wisconsin over the summer. So those are not opportunities that would be paid and they are not necessarily cheap, but they do have financial aid opportunities at those as well.
And I will note, I know at least in my graduate program, there was also funding within the graduate program that if you needed to boost up your language skills, especially for languages that are not as commonly offered, especially in a sort of high school or collegiate level, that oftentimes the graduate program would help you finance to do that. Either you would be reimbursed if you got a certain grade in it, things like that. But that's certainly how I learned Latin in a crash course, was with the help of my grad program. All right. Oh, this is a question from Ren. It says, if you publish a paper in a journal, can you still use it as a writing sample for graduate schools? I think everyone will nod their head and say, yes, absolutely. Recycle, recycle, recycle. We learned this lesson in academia. You've done the hard work. Absolutely, you should submit that. And it's a great idea because it's something that's been edited and polished by other people. So you know you've had other eyes looking at it. So they're going to help catch errors and things like that and typos. And that's always very helpful. And there's been some other great commentary about learning language skills and whether or not you need to have that. I will also say that frequently they don't require it upon admission. You don't have to walk in the door with knowing those languages. So let's say if it's a multi-year degree program that does buy you a little bit of time and some summers in between. I can say personally, I walked into graduate school and I never taken French, and I was required to pass a French translation exam. I had the German background, did not have the Romance language background, and so it was very difficult for me to wrap my brain around French. And I had a tutor for a semester that I met with a couple times a week, and she like tailored that study for translation, and I passed the exam with very little trouble. So it is a very doable thing. I don't want this to deter people from going to graduate school and scare you off, because it is doable. You see all of us today here on the panel, we have all survived it. You too can do this. This is my testimonial here. We are a little over time, so I think what I'd love to do is I'd love for us all to give a virtual round of applause to our really wonderful panelists. Thank you so, so much for your thoughts and your advice. Yes, yay. This has been so, so helpful, I know, for so many people. And I think very reassuring to know that this is a doable thing, and that there are lots of people out there who are willing to help and support students as they're going through this process. I want to thank all of our panelists for being so generous with their time and their expertise, and for our students for attending today. Without you, there would be no point for us to be here. So thank you for tuning in, and we wish you all the best as you are considering further study. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, in case you joined late, for all those who attended, I will send you a document with every panelist's name and email address. You can reach out to them individually, and if they want to send me any other sorts of links and things to open houses and such, I'll be really happy to include that on that document. So if you could get that to me in the next couple of days, and I'll try to send that document out to everyone by like Tuesday or Wednesday. That would be fantastic. Thank you, one and all. This has been so terrific, and I wish we had more time, and I'm sure there are a lot more questions. But this has been wonderful, and thank you for making this such an enjoyable experience. And hopefully this will become an annual tradition as part of the symposium. So thank you for supporting us. So to one and all, hopefully we'll see you at more sessions. We've got more this afternoon and evening, and we have a whole nother day's worth tomorrow. So stay tuned, and we want to thank you all again for helping make this year's event be the biggest and best yet. And we are totally dependent upon your generosity, and we are so grateful for it. So thanks one and all, and hope to see you soon online. Take care.